Hello, right. So, might as well make a start. So I'm going to basically do some editing work on a chapter of my book. The way I do it is I read it out loud to myself, make alterations and notes on the paper, then pretty much update it straight away on my laptop, which is just out of shot here. Let's just load up this chapter. I'm expecting a phone call. I'm not going to turn this off, but I will have a natter whilst that on. Whilst I'm doing that. And the other thing I said I was going to do is introduce a little character. Like I said, I'm a Doctor Who fan. So you last saw, what was it, a Naimon. Well, today you're going to see an Ice Lord. Now, Ice Lord is the, I'll just show you properly. He's the higher up cast of Ice Warrior. And they featured in 3 Doctor Who stories. This one is from The Monster of Peladon, which I can't remember what the character's name is. That's bad, isn't it? I'm supposed to be a fan. But yes, these Ice Lords first appeared in a black and white Patrick Troughton Doctor Who story in 1968 or 69, probably 69. Anyway, called The Seeds of Doom, where Martians try to take over the Earth by taking over the moon base. It's an overlong but wonderfully dreadful, brilliant story. I absolutely love it. Troughton at his best. And then these guys are also in some Third Doctor stories, The Curse of Peladon and The Monster of Peladon. The Ice Warriors have again turned up twice on the new series. Once with Peter Capaldi, once with Matt Smith, although you didn't see this design because obviously they updated a bit and made them look a bit more scary. And then this particular version, the Ice Lords, have been used by Big Finish Productions several times as they've produced Doctor Who stories, audio stories containing the Ice Warriors. One of my favourites is their Key to Time sequel, The Judgment of Iskar, and I believe Iskar, the lead Ice Lord in that story, was one of these guys. So I'll just pop him there. Thank you. We'll say you're Iskar, although you're not. Right, so chapter 12. For context, what's just happened? This is only the second chapter of the second half of the book. So Freddie is hiding at home, pretending he's on holiday, faking the holiday using Instagram and stuff like that. Although I don't know if he's actually done that yet. Has he done that? Let's just have a quick peek through chapter 11. Chapter 11 is quite a long one, so I might have done. Excuse me. I'll just do this. Well, maybe that happens in this chapter, because I know I've read it, which means it's in a chapter of editing, but it might be one that I haven't finished editing. Oh, it is, it's this one. Right, so he's hiding at home. Nobody knows he's at home. They'll think he's on holiday in Australia. He's putting pictures he's bought from Instagram onto Facebook to facilitate this. So chapter 12, it was originally called Images and Inspiration. It's now called Images. Bear with me, this will be very bitty, because if I see something I don't like, I shall change it as we go and alter it on here and on the screen. So this might be a bit bitty. So chapter 12, Images. After he had eaten, Freddie returned to his bed. It was a fitful... can't even read now. It was a fitful rest, and he woke again at about 4 a.m. Initially, he tried to go back to sleep, but his mind was very active, and the more he thought about it, the further away sleep seemed. He turned on the television and flicked through the channels. His family had subscribed to the full satellite package, but it was a total waste of money. He never watched sport and rarely had the attention span for a movie. He really ought to phone them and downgrade the package or just cancel completely. Old comedy shows, episodes of Top Gear on at this ungodly hour. Although Freddie guessed this was probably the best time to try and watch them, most people who were channel hopping now were probably drunk. It was rather cold in the office, so Freddie called out to his speaker to turn on the heater. Within 10 minutes, the chill had been removed from the air. In the meantime, he had gone through the news channels. BBC News was uninspiring. Sky News was just tabloid crap. I'll just say what I think. He flipped through the Russian news channel, France 24, then finally hit NHK, the English language Japanese news channel. He looked at his watch again. It was 4:30, and after some headlines flashed across the screen, the second half of a programme started. It commenced with an interview of a young Japanese guy who said that he had not left his bedroom for over 6 months. A voiceover then explained that this was a common trend in Japanese culture. It was believed that there were over 500,000 disaffected young men aged between 20 and 35 who had rejected society in favour of isolation. Most were still living with their parents. The programme had interviews with a few of them. Some isolated themselves because they'd been bullied when they were younger. One lad had what he believed was a high-pitched voice. He sounded fine to Freddie, and had been so badly terrorised at school, he had failed his exams, withdrawn into himself, and eventually stayed in his bedroom. He had no friends. Freddie was drawn into the show with a quiet fascination. He forgot about the diary entry that he had been about to write and about Lauren. He recognised a significant proportion of what was being shown on the screen in himself. Most of the people on the documentary or in the documentary, on it or in it, both would work. Most people, my instinct is in, so I shall just change that. Most of the people in. Oh, this is where most of the people... Oh, I've changed it to in, so I've already changed it, right. Most of the people in the documentary had gradually withdrawn from interactions. Freddie had done the same. Since he stopped working, he'd rarely left Oak Farm, and as time had gone on, he rarely went outside. The fateful trip to the restaurant had been the first time that he'd left the vicinity of his home in ages. This is the trip out to, and I've used the word trip. I should put the journey to instead of trip out, so I don't use the word trip twice. So the journey to Heathrow. Sorry, this is real life, real-time editing. So the journey to Heathrow had scared the living daylights out of him. The fateful trip to the restaurant had been the first time he'd left the vicinity of his home in ages. The journey to Heathrow had scared the living daylights out of him. The programme looked at the reasons these youths isolated themselves. It was believed that about half had mental disorders. Mental disorders? Mental health? I don't like that. That makes it sound really judgmental. I'm going to change mental health. And problems? Is problems a bad word? Let's see if I can find a more elegant word for problem. Let's have a look. Thesaurus.com, where art thou? So synonym for problem. And accept cookies, thank you. Right. I'm going to do this today. No. Mental health complications. Mental health trouble. Mental health predicaments. Mental health quandary. No. Let's see. Mental health complications. The programme looked at the reasons why these used the reasons. Oh, that needs a why. That wasn't in there, so I'll add that. The reasons why these youths isolated themselves. It was believed that about half had mental health complications. That's what I'm going to put. I like that. So let me just up-to-date that. It was believed that about half reasons why. So I should add the why. And health complications. Sorry, this is so fascinating to watch, but it's making me do it. So, oh, hello. I have somebody watching me. This is probably very dull. I'm trying to write a book. And I'm literally just reading through it and editing it as we speak. And I'm only doing it on here, if I'm honest, as a way of making myself do it. So it's about somebody who's isolating themselves, and he's just realised he's quite similar to people in Japan. There's a phenomenon over there called Hikikomori, and he's realised he's a bit like that, and he's just found a TV programme. I'm literally editing that scene now, so I'll get back to where I was. Right, so the programme looked at the reasons why these youths isolated themselves. It was believed that about half had mental health complications, whilst the others had no obvious illnesses. Freddie knew which bracket he fell into. Whilst he had lied about the agoraphobia to Steph on the phone last night, the social anxiety was all too real. Apparently it was something that affected more young people in China due to issues that were unique to that country, thanks to cultural tendencies that gave more value to conformity. Before he was ill, Freddie deliberately did not conform. At school, he was the one that wore black and refused to follow trends, and although there was some negativity from classmates about his choices, he had relished university and the opportunity to be himself. In many ways, that time had been the best in his life, but he strongly empathised with the people that were being interviewed who were shunned and bullied because they just wanted to be themselves. There was a word in Japanese to describe these people, hikikomori, literally the socially withdrawn. Freddie felt like he really understood them. He flicked through the programme planner on Sky. I've said which broadcast he's watching with, and I hate Sky, so I'm not bloody giving them the airtime, so let me just edit that out. There we go. Gone. Right, so he flicked through the programme planner and found that the show was being repeated. He set it to record so he could watch the whole thing later. There was one lad who he had particularly felt for as he watched the show, Kazuo, who had been, and again, that might not be how you pronounce it. That's certainly, it's written Kazuo. It might not be pronounced like that in Japanese, but I don't care if I pronounce it wrong. Anyway, well, I do, but I'm not worrying about it in this forum. There was one lad who he particularly felt for as he watched the show, Kazuo, who had been publicly and humiliatingly dumped by his girlfriend 5 years ago. He'd started to self-harm and eventually refused to leave his home. Now he was so agoraphobic that he struggled to go to the bathroom in his own house. He was skinny and pale and came across as someone who was capable of much kindness given the opportunity. Freddie found himself emotionally drawn to Kazuo. Here was a kindred spirit, someone who was as broken as he was. Freddie typed the word hikikomori into his iPad. Then he dug out a post-it note and pen from the drawer under the computer and wrote the word out in his scruffy handwriting, enjoying the feel and shape of the letters. He wrote it over and over again, in capital letters, in lowercase, loving the fact that there was a word from thousands of miles away that he could own. Hikikomori, he wrote. I am Hikikomori. The English Hikikomori. He searched online for more information on social isolation. Oh, I can't even talk. He searched online for more information on social isolation and found a report on the NHS website. Whilst not unique to older people, he realised it was something that tended to impact people as they got older here in the United Kingdom. So whilst he could not say he was the only person who had chosen to isolate himself in this country, he reckoned he was better at it than anyone else. He could use technology to make it easier to achieve by arranging to have his shopping delivered without any human interaction. He could use technology to make it easier to achieve, that's better. He could use technology to make it easier to achieve by arranging to have his shopping delivered without any human interaction he already had. He was almost proud of himself. It was a strange thing to take any level of comfort from, but Freddie did. You're still watching me. That's fine. It's not that interesting, but okay. He had only seen about 20 minutes of the programme, but Freddie had spent over an hour just thinking about it once it had been on. It was now 5:30 in the morning, which meant that it was 4:30 in the afternoon in Sydney. He wrote down some notes about what his doppelganger was doing and decided that he was sitting on a beach in Sydney reading a book. Freddie spent some time on the internet looking up what he would be doing today. He found what looked like an awesome place to stay, the Maze Backpackers, and then realised that this was a short walk to a ferry terminal where he could catch a boat to Manly Beach. So that is what he decided he had been doing. Am I a teacher? No, I'm just somebody trying to write a book. I'm literally only live streaming it because I've struggled to motivate myself to actually. I've written the thing. I've just struggled to motivate myself to edit it properly, and that's what I'm doing now. And by putting it on here, it forces me to read it out loud properly. Not that I'm anticipating. I mean, I'm surprised that anybody's watching at all, to be honest. But it says I've got two. One of them is me because I've got it under another user on the telly over there, just so I can see that I don't look completely stupid. Anyway, yeah, it's just me editing. I don't work as a writer. I want to be a writer, so I'm trying to write this book. I've been working on it it took me about 10 months to write the first draft. And then I started another project, and now I'm coming back to it because I need to finish this one. There's no point doing another project and not finishing the first one, if that makes sense. So I'm using my time in isolation because I'm not allowed out at the moment. I'm using that time to try and force myself to get this thing done, but I haven't been doing it. So literally the only reason I'm doing it on Twitch is a kind of a way of forcing myself to do it. So where was I? Right, the maze back. Freddie spent some time on the internet looking up what he would be doing today. He found what looked like an awesome place to stay, the Maze Backpackers, and then realised that this was a short walk to a ferry terminal where he could catch a boat to Manly Beach. So that is what he decided he had been doing. He looked on TripAdvisor. And I've taken out the TripAdvisor. I don't like advertising. I've taken out TripAdvisor. He looked online to see if he could find out more about the maze and read that it was a friendly, child-free environment and that they did pizza night. He decided he would enjoy that. NHK was still on in the background. They were now showing a programme about Japanese teens travelling abroad before they started university, including an interview with 2 stunning girls. One of them was called Yuka, and they had just come home from a backpacking trip on the east coast of Australia. He made some more notes on his iPad. He was going to meet a pair of Japanese girls in the hostel. He needed to create background characters for his journey, people he could talk about or mention on social media. No doubt he would get messages from people commenting and asking questions about some of the places he had gone and the things that he had done, which he may have to reply to. The problem is I find I actually get the flow. The comment says focus on edit, don't worry about reading. I find that I get a better idea of the flow if I read it out loud. And, I also weirdly notice repetitions. If I've used the same word quite close together, I notice it better if I read it out loud than if I just read it off the page. So that's why I'm doing it. I did think about doing it as a podcast, but that would require editing, and this doesn't. You just sort of turn on your phone and get on with it. I don't get messages from people. Some of the people might talk to each other, so his story need to be consistent. This fictional diary's journey was all the more important because of that. So Freddie wrote the account of the day about him buying pizza for his roommates. At 8 o'clock, he talked to them confidently as he bought them pizza, and once he had eaten, took them both to the single room that he imagined he had procured. He fantasised that they both came in with him, pretending to be shy and coy, but soon they were kissing him and touching him. As the reality of his surroundings floated back into his consciousness, Freddie felt pathetic. He looked back at his written account of what had happened and knew that he would never actually behave like that, however much the devil on his shoulder might be spurring him on. He read the words back to himself and then shook his head, embarrassed, and deleted everything from collecting the pizza onwards, and wrote the... can't read that. Deleted everything from collecting the pizza on, and wrote. Oh God, I can't even read my bloody writing. He read the words back to himself again, then shook his head, embarrassed, and deleted everything. Right, okay. Deleted everything from collecting the pizza onwards, and wrote the entry again. He had a nice evening talking to the girls, then went to bed on his own. Much more likely. Exhausted and a bit disgusted with himself, Freddie went to the bathroom and washed himself down in the sink. He checked the mirror and saw the face of a pervert and felt ashamed. He wished he could look in the mirror once and feel contented with what he saw, but he knew that was a very long way off. What was before him now did not even deserve to exist. He was a waste of oxygen, and realised with some certainty the world would be a better place without him. Not for the first time he wished he had not survived the crash. He looked back at his watch and realised that he was tired again. He returned to his bed, switched off the heater, snuggled up into blankets and fell asleep. Old man, thank you, bye. Sorry, I have to go. See you later, old man. Yep, I am an old man, but I don't care. Bye. When he next woke, Freddie was confused. He turned on the light and then remembered again that he'd covered the windows. He shook his head and looked at the time on his phone. It was just gone 10 in the morning. Freddie turned on the heater and dragged on some clothes. He had a sudden urge for some fresh air. So he put his coat on and opened the door. Outside it was bright and sunny, but very cold. There was a crisp-looking frost on the ground, especially the grassy areas beyond the end of the drive to the left. He felt the icy blast of the cold outside and closed the door again. He grabbed a bobble hat and scarf as well as a pair of gloves, then opened the door and stepped out into the cold, closing it quickly behind him. He even locked up and slipped the key into his pocket. Freddie turned left and walked to the end of the drive. There was a large wooden gate which led into a field. In fact, there were 3 large fields around the house. One at the front, which surrounded the house, and one at the front, which surrounded the house, which the driveway... One at the front, which surrounded the house and which the driveway skirted the edge of, and then 2 further beyond the office. He walked into the middle field now, carefully closing the gate behind him, something his father had always insisted upon, even though there were usually no animals on the farm. Occasionally his father had rented the fields out. Is rented out? Is that the right phrase? Don't know. Occasionally his father had hired? No, because that's when you hire something. Oh, I'll think about it. Occasionally his father rented the fields out to local farmers to graze sheep and always asserted that good habits around gates were essential at all times, just in case. Freddie stepped onto the frosty turf. The middle field was just grass with trees in the far distance. To the right, not far beyond the gate, was a small barn which housed a tractor and a trailer hitch that turned the unit into an enormous ride-on lawnmower. He used to love cutting the grass when he was younger. It was a chore his father used to pay him for, but he would happily have done for nothing. He used to love sitting in the sun, driving the tractor around in huge, lazy circles. The word lazy isn't in there, but I'm going to add it because it sums it up perfectly. Page 5, huge, lazy circles. Right. As he walked south away from the house, the frosted grass crunched under his feet. He stood for a moment, removed the scarf from his mouth, and enjoyed watching his icy breath as he exhaled. Yeah. He puckered his mouth and tried to blow out his breath? No, that doesn't make sense. He tried to blow... Oh, that does work. He puckered his mouth and tried to blow out his breath in smaller columns, but it did not work. He replaced the scarf and looked slightly to his left where the sun was low in the bright blue sky, enjoying the stark white of the frosted trees as they hit the blue. He had remembered his phone and he took a couple of pictures of the beautiful silver and azure landscape in front of him. He opened Instagram and was about to share the photograph when a voice inside his head screamed at him, Way to blow your cover, you... I don't know if I'm allowed to swear on here, so I won't read the word out. Way to blow your cover, you effing idiot. So loud that he almost dropped the phone. Somewhat ashamed of himself, his face glowing red under the scarf, he shut down the app, turned off the screen and shoved the phone deep into his pocket. He continued walking down the inside of the field, which was bordered by a line of trees to the neighbours, whose fields were adjacent to his. Well, of course they're bloody adjacent. They're the neighbours. That can come out. That's just like over-explanation. Right, so... He continued walking down the inside of the field, which was bordered by a line of trees so that the neighbours could not see him. And they're not there for that reason, so which meant the neighbours could not see him because actually he didn't. They'd been there for years. So the neighbours could not see him. Oh, hello. Sorry, I've just seen... I don't know if you're still here. If you're still here, send me another message and I'll answer your question, but I suspect you're not. He continued walking down the inside of the field, which was bordered by a line of trees, which meant the neighbours neighbours could not see him, until he got to the gate that led into the lower field, his favourite of the 3. It was not flat like the middle field and sloped gently down towards a stream at the bottom that marked the edge of the property. He walked carefully down, not worrying so much now about staying hidden. Thanks to the slope and the trees that divided the fields, you could not see the house, the office, the garage or the barn from here. It felt like being in the middle of nowhere. Oh, hey, you are still here. Oh, that's weird. It says I've only got one viewer. And I thought I knew who that was. Hello. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm a wannabe writer. I want to... Well, I've written a book. It hasn't been published or anything, but I've written it. And I'm in the process of editing it. I'm not working at the moment thanks to the virus. And this is the perfect time for me to do that editing work. And what I find is I'm incredibly lazy at the moment. I've just had 2 weeks where I've done literally nothing. I don't think it's at all awful, but I need to fine tune it. And what I found is that reading it out loud to myself, I get a better feel of the pace and rhythm. I also notice more errors, so if words repeated in quick succession, I notice that better. So I'm not really doing it to get people watching. I'm just doing it to discipline myself to read it out loud properly. And because I'm streaming it, then I kind of have to read it out loud properly, even though I wasn't anticipating anybody listening, and a couple of people have. So it's a story about somebody who's isolating themselves, nothing to do with what's going on at the moment. You're in uni, you have no motivation to do the work. Online school, isn't it? Oh, okay. All right, whereabouts are you from? Well, I shall crack on. If I do see a response, I shall continue. Right then, so where was I? Minnesota in the US. That's somewhere I haven't been at all, oddly. And I used to be airline crew, so I've been to the US a few times, but Minnesota is somewhere I haven't been. Just got a call. Hello, Raymond. You all right?
I've been on a job to get hold of you. I keep doing FaceTime. It comes up FaceTime, and then it just freezes. You know, it's just.
What, on your phone?
No, I'm on the iPad, so I shut the thing down and rebooted it, and now it's come through. Well, did you just call me then, or did you get?
No, I tried to call you a few minutes. Oh, I did this time, yeah, because I saw a missed call come up.
Yeah.
So
I'm having a bit one of them mornings this morning. I've planned everything to do this first thing, and I got up not later, but I was doing a few little silly things first of all, and then Tracy's gone with the dog with Jack, and I had a phone call from someone else, then I had a call from somebody else, then I did some breakfast late because I hadn't had breakfast earlier on. I didn't feel like it this morning first thing.
Right, yeah, I was thinking it was 11 o'clock when we sort of briefly spoke, and you were like.
So I hadn't caught up on the news either, so I just watched the 10 o'clock news just to see if I'd missed anything, but I only really watched it. Fucking hell, I'll tell you what I did see this morning. Piers Morgan, I know he can be an arsehole. He nailed the ex-Conservative Party, Brendan Lewis, his name is. He's now the Northern Ireland Secretary. He's got very thick, wavy hair.
Okay.
But he was on there this morning, and he didn't have any of the answers he was asking him. He didn't know the figures. He didn't, the bloke was completely out of the water. And Christ Almighty, I've never seen anyone nailed. It's all to do with testing, Well,
it's a good question. What did Keir Starmer ask? If we're capable of testing 40,000 people a day, why are we only testing 18,000? And I don't think they had a good answer for that.
It didn't what? They didn't give a good answer for that.
No, I mean, I need to sit back and watch it because it was in PMQs yesterday. But there is no answer. If they can test that many people and they're not, then...
Why aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this was one of his things, and he said to him this morning, he said, so you tell me, because all they do is they keep saying, we're going to be at 40,000. He said, no, you're not going to be at 40,000 because you ain't got there yet, because you haven't got the figures that you keep saying you've got. And then he said to him, so what were the figures for yesterday? And he quoted the figures that you've just said, yeah? He said, well, I can tell you that's not true. He said, because I've got the latest statistics from the National Health this morning, and they've revised the figures. Only 13,000 people were tested yesterday.
Right, so they've got a capacity to test 40,000 and they only tested 13,000. That's just crazy.
Yeah. So he then said...
But they said they were going to be doing 100,000 by the end of the month, so they've got, 7 days?
Days, yeah. That's what he said to him. But anyhow, he said to him, I'm not being funny, he said, no disrespect, and I'm not being disrespectful to you, he said, but you are the spokesman for the government today on the TV, on every channel, and I've watched all of your other channels, while I've been off the air or whatever, and you've not given one
a researcher told him what somebody else said is actually what will have happened.
Yeah. And he said, so the answer is, at the end of the day, how can you come on TV and not even have the answers for the British people? The people are dying, and everything. He absolutely fucking wiped the pissing floor. So if I want to watch that programme again, Good Morning Britain.
I presume you got onto ITV Player, yeah.
Yeah, which I did, and then it says ITV. Is it Horrible, whatever they call it, or
Possibly,
something?
Yeah. I rarely watch ITV.
I went on it, but it doesn't say today. It said like 2 days, Mondays. You can watch Mondays, but not today's. You must be able to watch today's, surely.
Maybe they don't put it on straight away. Maybe it takes them a few hours to actually put it up.
Ah, okay.
So it'll probably be there at some point today. I don't even... What day is it today?
Yeah, what day is it? Is it Wednesday today?
I don't know. I'm asking you.
Is it Wednesday or Thursday?
I was thinking Friday. Hang on.
No, it's definitely
mad,
not
isn't it? Hang on. 23rd. I know it's the 23rd, but I don't no idea what day it is. No, you're right.
Maybe,
it's Thursday.
Maybe it's Thursday.
It is Thursday. You just lose track, don't you? When you're not doing anything.
No. Christ almighty. I thought it was bloody, what do you call it? Ah!
Well, yeah.
Anyhow, it's another day in lockdown, isn't it?
It is what it is. So I'm making myself trying to do some work because I've not done any work on my book for the last 2 weeks because I've not been in the right routine, and I've found a way of making myself do it, which is stupid, but it seems to be working. And so have you heard of Twitch TV?
No.
Okay. Basically, it's a TV...
You said you were on a live thing when I...
Yeah, that's what it was. That's what it was. So it's literally a TV... You can stream a TV program, and anybody who's on the website can sign in and watch it. So there's a comedian I like who he used to do an interview show in it was called, it's a very lengthy title, it's called Richard Herring's Leicester Square Theatre Podcast, and he used to, basically it was a chat show in the theatre in London, and obviously you can't do it in a theatre anymore, so he's just doing it over the internet using this Twitch TV. So I think it's once a week he does like a live interview. So he's had a couple of in the live show in the theatre, he's had loads of really famous people on. I don't think he's had anybody quite so famous. The one he's doing on this TV, it's not a TV station. It's like it's basically like a way of broadcasting TV to the world through the internet. So what I'm doing to make myself right is I'm reading the bloody book out over this thing and editing it as I go, because it just disciplines me to do it. So if you're very, very bored and you want to install Twitch TV on your smart TV, when I do this editing, you better see me sit there reading it out to myself. Weirdly, I got chatting, whilst I was doing it earlier, I got chatting with a girl in Germany who was telling me about how things are there. And she was just texting me and I was responding by talking. But basically, I didn't realise, obviously they keep social distancing and everything is going on out there, but they never close coffee shops. Shops are all open, coffee shops are all open. You have to socially distance, so you're not allowed to, you couldn't have 5 people around a table like you used to, but you can go to a coffee shop. And their cases are no worse than anywhere else's. And indeed, because of their healthcare provision, their death rate is actually, well, you've seen it, it's 5,000 compared to France, who've got a similar number of cases, but 4 times the deaths at 20,000.
Yeah, it's funny because the news headlines at 10 o'clock, which I told you I watched, the headlines was actually Angela Merkel. She's been on German TV this morning at 9 o'clock their time to say that the Germans have got a very false understanding of how serious the situation is.
Oh, really? Oh, because this girl was saying, because in 4 days' time, it will be illegal to go outside without a face mask on in Germany.
Yeah, and she's just basically told them this morning that Germany is like, if you like, comme ci, comme ça sort of stuff. They're not
That's
very...
France, but okay.
Sort of thing. And basically, that's going to change because she needs to step up the amount of lockdown situations.
That's interesting.
At the moment. And she's going to turn around and say to the Germans at 12 o'clock that this is what's going to happen, and they're going to change a lot of the things. So they were told yesterday that they were going to start playing the Bundes football league again. Right. So everybody was, hey, great, we're all going to go back to football. Well, actually, she's just announced that the football can play behind closed doors, but nobody can go to any matches till the end of August because she doesn't see the situation.
Right, okay. I mean, I'm kind of surprised they're not doing stuff like that here, because then Sky or whoever, would be able to show them at least, and they'd get some revenue that way. But then you can't really social distance when there's 22 men running around a field kicking a bit of leather. So
basically, she was saying that Germany needs to wake up, that the virus hasn't gone, it's lurking around here and it's around the corner.
Yeah. I'm just going to grab a drink. I'm still listening to you, so just because you can't see me, I am here. I'm just going to grab myself a water.
So basically, it's saying that if you don't understand it, it's still here, it's still in Germany, it's still affecting our economy. And she gave them a bit of bollocking as well about a bit of a bollocking about things to do with how the economy's going, etc., etc. And so it'd be interesting to see what happens there. But the biggest thing that was at 10 o'clock news was that I'm not probably going to tell you. I mean, I'm into this a bit, but I might have it slightly wrong. So there's something that they made with the government called not PPI, PI something or other. Basically, it's the amount of activity in the economy, the amount of money that's coming in the country and actually being withdrawn from the country.
Right.
PMI, that's what it's called, PMI.
You know what that stands for?
Do I know what it stands for? No,
I don't. I was just curious.
It's something to do with management. It's the amount of activity. It's the amount of activity within the country financially. Maybe it will tell you what PMI is.
Yeah, I'm just looking. What is PMI in economy?
Sure, it's PMI.
Purchasing Managers Index is an index of the prevailing direction of economic trends in the manufacturing and services sector. It's there to provide information about current and future business conditions to company decision makers, analysts, and investors. Okay, there you go. Learn something there.
Yeah. So it tells them what money is coming in, what's going out. If loads of investors are pouring money out the country for whatever reason, but also it's where all these managers send the information in, where they've got activity going on, where they're receiving. So, for instance, if BA was ordering 3 planes, that would go into it that they're going to spend £600 million this month paying Boeing for a jet. Right. It's all these sort of figures. So normally it's set at 50. Yep. The index, top of the scale is 50. So if you're at 50, the country's doing okay. If it goes to 51, 52, you're rocking and rolling.
Right.
So on average, it's around 50. When the economic crash came with the banks in 1980, when was it?
I can't
88
remember.
Was it? Yeah.
80. Oh, I can't remember. Was not the John Major one?
No, the last one we had where the banks nearly all went up the chute. Is that 90 something?
Do you mean when John Major was Prime Minister?
No, I think it's the one where we had to do Northern Rock and all that lot.
That was 2000. It was only 10 years ago.
Was it? Okay, so when that was 10 years ago, and there was the economic crash, and we went into a major spiral.
Yeah.
The index dropped to 30. I think they said 36, and that was a disaster. That was a disastrous thing. They've just announced the PMI for today is 12.
Things can only get better.
It's 12.
Except I'm guessing it can go down to 0. So
yeah, so it is pretty serious stuff. But they're saying their fingers crossed. They're hoping that this will be a 4 months or 5 months collapse and then a recovery. But what they were saying on the news this morning, the amount of people that will probably lose their jobs or nobody's buying such a great lot of stuff, and not necessarily like, I'm not talking about cars. Cars will be up the shit as we talked about, but basically things like things for like at the moment while it's nice, people are going to order a parasol or a dinner table and chairs to have it delivered from Amazon or whatever, but they're talking about your big ticket items like buying a settee, buying people like DFS, people buying furniture generally, moving house, this, that, is completely going to be off the fucking. Well, in fact, there's a picture of the graph, and I'll tell you, it's like a jet gone up horizontally, like this.
Bit like the infections, then.
Yeah, it's massive. So that was the main. That was the main headlines. So that should be quite interesting after a while, but yeah. So don't know where it goes with it all, really. At the end of the day, the only thing is, I'll tell you what: if you ever wanted to be wound up by Americans, there is the Sky have been showing it all every hour or so, repeat on the news anyhow. So, I think I said to you yesterday that they were interviewing people in Kentucky, where they did this big parade down the street saying, hello, mate, putting their hands through the car window, shaking hands and kissing everybody, saying, let's, this is, stay open, Virginia is open for business, and all this. These people are on the fucking steps of the main city hall in Kentucky, and they're actually holding machine guns. Yeah.
Oh, didn't something similar happen in? I can't
this was
remember
Virginia.
where.
This was Virginia. Sorry, it's happened in two I've seen on TV. One is Virginia, and one was in Kentucky. Well, the one in Virginia, which I saw yesterday. Oh my God. What a load of weirdos. This one bloke, not that that's got anything to do with it, but he's standing there, and he's only a young bloke, and he's probably mid-20s, and he's grown a beard that it goes down to his dick, almost, yeah? Right? That's how long it is, yeah? Seriously. And he's got it shaped in a great big point. It's right down to his dick. And he's got a machine gun in one hand, and he's got a bloody handgun on his belt with a gun stuck in it.
Well, it's his constitutional right to have that.
Exactly, that's what he said. These people have got badges on that said, my right to use a gun when I want to use a gun to protect myself or something. I don't know, something like that. But he was absolutely, completely and utterly an absolute pain in the arse. Oh, is this bloke coming to me? Hold on a minute, Andrew. I think he's coming to my house. Just give me a minute and I'll call you straight back.
All right, no worries.
Okay.
Bye.
All right, mate. See you in a bit. Bye.
Right, back to what I'm supposed to be doing. Freddie looked down the slope and headed slowly towards the stream at the bottom, which was slightly covered by... Oh, I haven't even read that. No. He continued walking down the inside of the field, which was bordered by a line of trees, which meant the neighbours could not see him until he got to the gate that led into the lower field, his favourite of the three. It was not flat like the middle field and sloped gently down towards a stream at the bottom that marked the edge of the property. He walked carefully down, not worrying so much now about staying hidden. Thanks to the slope and the trees that divided the fields, he could not see the house, the office, the garage or the barn from there. It felt like being in the middle of nowhere until he looked up and saw the jet streams of aircraft passing over. They were not all that far in aviation terms from Gatwick Airport. He looked down the slope and headed slowly towards the stream at the bottom, which was slightly covered by overhanging branches from trees on either side. The area close to the edge was usually slippery, but today the mud was frozen solid. Freddie ventured down and saw the stream was also frozen, although a quick inspection of the ice showed that it was very thin. He touched it gently. Hello?
Sorry, it wasn't for me.
Oh.
Okay. Yeah, so, sorry, where was it? Anyhow, these guys, when they interviewed them, they're absolutely indoctrinated completely by Trump. Completely. Unbelievable.
Well, there are some people that... I mean, the media haven't helped themselves by not always being totally honest, but the bottom line is the majority of the media do attempt to get it right, but unfortunately... whenever he claims fake news, there are people that believe him. And so there are people in America that genuinely believe that the virus has been exaggerated and isn't an issue. And it's so sad because they're some of them are going to get ill and die because of that belief. And that's tragic, really.
Yeah, I know.
But, what can you do?
I think their deaths are up to...
They'll hit 50,000 today.
Okay, mate, it's all right. yeah, it's all right. He's asking me. See, that's nice. He's working at the building site. He's a surveyor or something, and he's just said, "Do you mind if I park outside your house?" Christ, how many people do that to you normally? You know?
I wouldn't.
No. At least he was polite and asked. You know, and so you can just tell they're totally indoctrinated by everything, you know, and what have you. So.
Well, it's not going to end well. I mean, they're going to potentially have 1 million infections by the end of the week. Not the end of the week, but within a week from today, they're averaging about 25 to 30,000 infections a day. Whatever they say, it isn't going down. At least the figures that they are publishing themselves say that it isn't going down. I think they're on about 850 now. Let me just check. They're on 849,000 infections now.
Yeah. So they're going to be 1 million, aren't they?
There'll be 1 million. If they're averaging between 20, 25 and 30 a day, it'll take 5 or 6 days for them to hit the million. And that's if it doesn't increase. And like I say, they will... they've been having... How many deaths a day on average? Let me just have a look. It's just loading up. Bear with me. So, let me just get that figure up. Bear with me. So, total deaths in the... Oh, where's that graph gone? Oh, there we go. So, last 2 days they've had... the highest... Oh, no. Oh, God. At least 2,000 deaths a day. So, very, very likely, maybe tomorrow, that they'll hit the 50,000 figure.
Yeah.
And then 1 million infections by this time next week, which is tragedy. It's horrendous, and but you got people who are so convinced by what he said that they think these figures are a lie.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's pretty. I don't know whether did you see the briefing yesterday?
No.
Well,
I see Priti Patel did one recently, and she got absolutely panned for it.
Yeah, well, I say the same as the other guy. Oh, hang on, I've got to go. It's Jack's medication. I'll call you back in a sec.
Yeah, no worries, mate. I'm going to carry on reading. Sorry about that. Friend called. Hello, I love you too. I'm from the UK. I'm not from Mexico. You watching me from Mexico? So what I'm doing, that was a friend interrupting. I just couldn't be bothered to hang up the stream. So I'm reading. I'm trying to write a book. I'm quite close to the end of editing it. I'm just reading it out loud and making little adjustments and bits and pieces. So it's about somebody who's basically depressed and suffering from social isolation. It's not a very interesting stream. I'm literally just reading stuff out and editing it as I go. So, where was I? Okay. He looked down the slope and headed slowly towards the stream at the bottom, which was slightly covered by overhanging branches from trees on the other side. The area close to the edge was usually slippery, but today the mud was frozen solid. Freddie ventured down and saw that the stream was also frozen, though a quick inspection of the ice showed that it was very thin. He touched it gently with his foot, then pressed down slightly, and the ice gave a satisfying crack. There was a tree that had been cut down on the other side, so Freddie jumped carefully over the stream, which was no more than a couple of feet across at its widest, and sat down on the horizontal trunk. He loved this spot, he always had. It was one of the reasons that he did not want to sell this place, even though logic told him that that was what he ought to do. Freddie sat thinking for a few minutes. His near miss with the photograph made him remember that he needed to post some pictures of the places he'd been to in Australia. He'd already written his diary for today. It was about 9:30 in the evening down there now, and he was in a bed in a single room by himself. He was well known for hating pictures of himself. The number of times he'd volunteered to take the photograph in group shots with friends at university rather than be in them could not be counted, so the fact that he was not going to be able to post any pictures of himself in Australia would not look overly suspicious to anyone. However, if he posted nothing at all, that would look strange. He was loath just to pull pictures from the web, because if he could find them, so could somebody else. And if, especially Lauren, realised that he was just uploading pictures he'd found online to Facebook, she would immediately realise what he was doing. A plan arose in his head, something he could start now. A way of procuring unique pictures that would not show up on online searches. Ideally, he should have started yesterday, but now the germ of an idea had formed in his mind, he could plan ahead for the next few days. Freddie trudged back up the slope to the middle field, closing the gate behind him, then through that field to the final gate and the drive that led into the garage. He was suddenly enthusiastic about his idea and could not wait to try it. He walked up to the door, tried to open it, then remembered that it was locked. Smiling, he put his hands into his pocket to retrieve the key. It wasn't there. Frowning, he pulled off his glove and tried the coat again. There was definitely no key. This was stupid. He tried his trouser pockets, both of them. Nothing. He removed the other glove and searched every pocket in his coat and trousers, somewhat frantic now. The keys were not there. Let me just make an alteration. Page 7. Ooh. Sorry, I'm literally editing live. The keys were not... There we go. The keys were not there. It said they. The keys were not there. He was so stupid. Not only was it a key to the office, the set also contained his only key to the house and garage and car. If he could not find them, he would have to call someone out, but the chances were that someone would notice a locksmith arriving. If his neighbours realised that he was there, his whole cover would be blown. Their daughter had been Rose's friend. She'd been at the funeral and everything, the whole family had, and she even followed him on Facebook. The enormity of his mistake was starting to dawn on him. He tried the door again just in case he had not locked it, but it remained steadfastly closed. He had definitely had the keys with him when he started walking. He had one choice now, which was to follow his footsteps back to the stream and hope he could find them. At least there were clear footprints in the frost for him to trace. Freddie walked slowly back the way he'd come, his heart beating ridiculously quickly. He could feel another panic attack coming on, but he managed to regulate his breathing as he followed his footsteps on the other side of the gate into the middle field, glancing at the ground and a few feet either side. The keys had to be here somewhere. He slowly retraced the marks his shoes had made in the frost, all the way to the gate between the middle and lower field. Out of habit, he closed the gate behind him and walked down the long slope to the stream, carefully inspecting the ground. Nothing. He got down to the stream, crossed it again and examined the ground near the horizontal tree trunk. Nothing. Still. I will use the word nothing. Let me just find a synonym for nothing. Because I've used the word twice in 2 sentences. I'm just going to put there were no sign of the keys. There was no sign. So instead of nothing, I put there was no sign of the keys there, right. Right, let's go back. He got down to the stream, crossed it again and examined the ground near the horizontal tree trunk. There was no sign of the keys. Wow, he was completely... The panic that he had kept at bay now broke over him like a massive wave. He could feel all the usual symptoms of a panic attack coming, only worse than usual. This was going to be a big one. He sat down on the tree trunk with his back to the stream and tried to regulate his breathing, but it was too little, too late. He felt his head starting to spin and held onto the tree he was sitting on. What he should have done, he realised as he lost his balance, was sit on the floor. The last thought that went through his mind as his head struck a large stone embedded in the ground behind him was that hindsight was a wonderful thing. Then he blacked out. Freddie woke up with a splitting headache. His legs were still over the trunk of the tree and he could feel the back of his head was very sore. I'm going to take out the very and just put sore. Right. He sat up carefully, then turned round on his hands and knees to look at the rock he had struck his head on. There was no sign of blood and he felt the back of his skull. No cut there either, but a bump was forming already. He gazed down to the edge of the stream and the first thing he noticed was his missing bunch of keys. They were in the mud at the edge of the water on the far side. They must have fallen out when he jumped across the first time, and then he must have trodden them in either when he jumped back across the first time. I'll take out the first time because that's already said that. Right. They were in the mud at the edge of the water on the far side. They must have fallen out when he jumped across the first time, and then he must have trodden them in either when he jumped back across or this time when he lurched over. He felt relieved, as well as the sense of calm that always came after a panic attack. He felt relieved, as well as the sense of calm that always came after a panic attack had run its course. He stayed on his hands and knees looking at the keys for a moment, not quite trusting his balance enough to stand up. He glanced at his watch. He'd only been out of it for 5 minutes, but it felt like a lot longer. Eventually, he felt safe to stand up. He stepped gingerly over the stream, bending over carefully once he was on the other side to retrieve his keys. Then he walked slowly up to the office through the gates, gripping onto the keys for dear life, forgetting to put his gloves back on. When he eventually got back to the office, he unlocked the door, let himself in, closed the door behind him and sank onto the bed, crying himself into a restless sleep. Freddie woke at 5 that afternoon. He looked outside the door and it was pitch black. His first job tomorrow when the sun came up would be to venture into the house and get some spare keys. At the very least he would hide a garage key somewhere and lock a full spare set in there. He could not risk a repeat of that morning. He had no idea what he would have done had he not found the keys. He suddenly realised that it was night again in Australia. A whole further day had passed since he had not visited Manly Beach. He needed to get some pictures for Facebook. His idea, if it worked, removed the possibility they could be tracked back to their originator with an internet tool like reverse image search.
Sorry I put you off like that.
That's all right.
It was Jack's medication. So I've just collected it from her and put it inside in the fridge. So.
Cool.
But she's the one that's got that brain tumour.
Yeah, you were telling me.
But she was just telling me that the surgeon's done a thing over the phone to her. They have to do it because there's no availability for her to go into Walsgrave about it at the minute.
But they have said if they were actually doing treatment, she would have gone in. They're still doing that kind of stuff, aren't they?
Yeah, well, she's not at that stage yet. What they've said to her is that they...
You told me it was inoperable anyway.
Yeah, they told her that... Well, he's told her that they may have to try and save her life, but it's not grown since last time. So they're going to wait for 3 months and hopefully things in the hospital will be better because he doesn't want her in the hospital with what's going on at the moment. No,
but I'm guessing if it started growing again, they'd have to.
Oh, yeah, he's told her that she'd have to go in then. But at the moment, it's not grown since the last time she had a scan. So,
okay.
But he said to her that they've got no operating tables, hardly operating much at the moment.
Well, no, because they've turned them all into intensive care units, haven't they?
Yeah. So, it's lovely and warm out here. Christ, it's roasting.
I know. I'm about to go. I'm about to. Once I've finished editing the chapter I'm on at the moment, when I've got about another 3 pages to do, I'm then going to sit out in the garden and read. There's a book I want to finish. I'm reading. Oh, you won't know what it is, but yeah, I want to finish the book I'm on at the moment. So. I've
just made a day when I was at the charity shop. I bought a book that was 1875, which was a Sunday school book from the church.
Right.
It was in immaculate condition, but a little bit on the binder on the outside. But the rest of it, the book was really good. It's all about the classes and the things that they were being taught at Sunday school and everything. And she's into all that sort of thing. She runs a Sunday school for the church. She's a bit religious, you know. And I gave it to her, and she's absolutely over the moon with it. So let's give her something to go home. And she said she'll go home and sit and read it. So that's made her day a bit. So I'm quite pleased about that. So. But hopefully it will take her mind off something, you know, for a little while and whatever, you know, doing it. All right, well, I'll catch you either early evening or later on, unless something unbelievable happens that, you know, let you know. But like they're winning the lottery or something, you know. But,
I need to check my premium. Oh no, I have checked my premium bonds for this month. I didn't win, but next month. You
should win next month because normally you win something every 3 months, is it? They guarantee.
But it's gone down. Oh, really? Well, we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah.
I don't think they guarantee anything, do they?
I've spent 20 quid over the last 2 weeks on the lottery on different nights and different things. I haven't even had a bloody sniff, so...
no.
But, you know, the guy that won it yesterday, 58 million he won or something, it's the first time he's done it. He's been at home on lockdown. He got fucking bored and joined up, bought a ticket.
Did it online? Well, it only takes one.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what they say. You got to be in it to win it. So
Indeed.
But I had to go last night. So
Yeah, I can't justify spending the money at the moment because you have to put on the online one. I think the minimum you can top up is a £5 or a tenner, and I can't
tenner,
and I can't justify putting a tenner on anything at the moment. Maybe next month, but probably not still.
No.
And I've got the premium bonds thing going on, so
nothing about what do you call it? BA, nothing from them at all. No.
I don't really want to talk about it, to be honest. So.
No. All right, mate. I'll catch you later anyhow.
All right.
See you in a bit.
See you later. Bye.
Bye.
Freddie went to the Instagram app on his phone and looked for images of Circular Quay. Ideally, he wanted to find one that had been taken from a ferry, even more ideally in the last couple of days. He typed hashtag Circular Quay and was rewarded by thousands of images. Even better, they had been sorted into the order they'd been put online. He clicked on the first image and was excited to see that it had been put online. I've used, so I should put uploaded for the second time. See, I wouldn't have spotted that if I wasn't reading it out loud. And then uploaded. 13 minutes ago. It was a selfie of some girl, so that particular image was of no use to him, but it meant that appropriate images were out there. He scrolled down further and found an amazing photograph. It was taken from the quay itself and was looking out across the harbour with a ferry in the foreground and the harbour bridge in the background. Even better, when he clicked on the link to the person who took the photograph, who had taken photograph. There had only been a handful of followers. Nobody had liked the photo. It was from today, and there was something similar further down the page by the same photographer. It was perfect. Freddie hit the back button on his browser and looked at the image again. He went down the screen where it said add a comment and typed the following. Hi there, I'm trying to prank some friends of mine into thinking I'm on holiday in Sydney. I'd like to buy your photo for $30, which I can send you now via PayPal. All I ask is you send me the unfiltered geotagged original and take it down from Instagram for 6 months. After that, feel free to put it back up. I will not post it on Instagram, only Facebook, and it will only be available for my friends to see. Reply if interested. Since it was the middle of the night over there, he doubted he would get a reply anytime soon. Next, he searched for a picture of Sydney Opera House, and again, with minimal effort, he found an ideal picture taken by a person with very few followers. He had copied the comment he had sent previously and pasted it into the comment section. This time, the response was almost immediate. Just 2 words. Fuck off. That was annoying, so he looked for another picture of the Opera House and sent the same message to someone else. That would have to do for now. The quay, the harbour bridge and the Opera House covered in 2 photographs. It was minimalist enough to convince his Facebook friends. He checked the time in Sydney, but it was not long after 4 a.m. He had left it too late to get a response tonight. He was about to shut the app down when he got a response. He got a response. It was a direct message from the girl who had taken the picture of the harbour from Circular Quay. It was simple. How do I know you won't rip me off? He thought about it, then replied, I'll send you $15 now and $15 when I get the email with the unfiltered geotagged image. I put $15. I'm actually putting... I need to say... I'm just going to change that because it actually has the $sign and the number 15 and I don't like that. I'm going to change it to $15 spelt out. Right, I will send you $15 now, and 15. He thought about the reply. I'll send you $15 now and 15 when I get the email with the unfiltered geotagged image. A pause. Then, what does geotagged mean? What phone are you using? He replied. Another pause. iPhone 8. Then it will be geotagged, replied Freddie. It's just GPS information saying where you were standing when you took the photo. Cool, okay, was the reply. So how do we do this? Freddie smiled. Send me your PayPal details. There was another pause as the email address popped up on the screen. He copied it and opened his PayPal app. He hit the send money icon and pasted the email address he had received. There was even an option to send it as another currency, so he hit Australian dollars, entered the amount, and then pressed send. Right, sent it. You should see it now. There was another pause. Okay, wow, got it. What do I do now? Email it to me, he said, and typed in his email address. fred.naismith1995. He paused for a moment. You should really set up a new email address that was not his own, and need a new Instagram account account that was based on that false identity. And that should be Instagram and PayPal. Oh well, he would do that later. He just wanted to see if this worked. At btinternet.com, he finished typing and pressed send. Then I'll send you the other, and I've done it again, $15, the dollar sign. I'm just going to change that to 15. Okay, another pause, and this one was slightly more significant. Then, okay, done. Freddie went into the email program on his phone. He refreshed the app a few times, and on the fourth attempt, the picture was delivered to his inbox. When he saved it, he was able to go into the Photos app and search for that image, for the images on the map. And there, superimposed over the image of Australia, was the picture he'd just been sent. He used his fingers to zoom into the map, and he could see exactly which pier she'd been standing in front of when she took the picture. Okay, got it. Okay, came the next message. Perfect, said Freddie, sending you the other $15. Let's just change that because I've written that out wrongly as well. Sending you the other $15. He went into the PayPal app and sent the money. Done. There was another pause, then another direct message popped up. Got it, thanks. Great doing business with you. Do you want any more? Freddie smiled to himself. That'll do for now, but I will let you know. Closing Instagram, he then set up a new email address and another Instagram account, uploading a couple of old pictures from his phone so the account was not empty. He would use this one from now on. He searched for another picture, this time from Manly Beach. He realised that the Opera House was somewhere that he had not been on his first day, at least according to his diary entry, so added it to the notes he made in advance of writing up day 2. He would need to think ahead from now on and try to get the pictures prior to his visit. But right at this moment he was exuberant. It had worked. He found the account from the person he just bought the picture from, refreshed the app, and indeed the picture had been taken down. Brilliant. It would not always be this easy, but hey, strike one, he thought to himself. From a horrible start, today was going okay after all. Once again exhausted, Freddie lay on the bed and slept for a few more hours. When he woke, he checked both his Instagram accounts, and sure enough, both responses had been positive, and people willing to sell their pictures to him for $30. Freddie contacted both of them and was soon in possession of 3 nice geotagged photographs of the places he was going to say he had been. The Opera House photograph seemed to have been taken in a place called the Opera Bar, which was somewhere he decided he would definitely would be visiting. Well, he caught himself. Say he would be visiting. Freddie uploaded all 3 pictures to Facebook, tagging himself in at Manly Beach with the status "My first couple of days down under." Within a few moments, he got a couple of likes. He went to the bathroom to relieve himself, and his phone buzzed to say that he had another notification. He checked and saw that it was from Lauren. "Well done, Freddie. I'm so proud of you. Kiss, kiss." He looked into the mirror and once more hated what he saw. That's not too bad. I think that's ready to... Yeah, because I've done lots of edits, as I say. I think that's ready to be signed off, at least for now. Right, so that was Chapter 12, Images. Chapter 13 is called Visitors. And I shall work on that later. So thank you for I think a couple of people have dipped in and I've interacted with a couple. As I say, I'm not doing this to get viewers. I'm doing this just to discipline myself to do the editing work I need to do. But a couple of you did say hello. So hello to the people that did. That's me done for now. So it's going to be goodbye from myself and from my friend the Ice Lord. When I come back later, it will be a different Doctor Who monster joining me. Wrong button. That's it. Thank you. Goodbye.